let's start with the session. So today in this particular session, we are going to discuss or understand and analyze the GS2 paper of UPSC 2025, right? Like what sort of questions have come, how we could gauge that this particular question will come in this particular year's paper, and what is the basic requirement to prepare, and how we'll actually get to know like we are well prepared with polity, governance, social justice, and IR, that is GS2 paper. Like what should be our strategy, that we are going to discuss or understand in this particular video. Testing contribution. Okay. So as if you guys have seen the paper, even if not, then just go back and see the paper. You guys will be able to understand like there are around 10 questions which belong to polity segment. So around 125 marks of just polity. So polity is really important. When I talk about polity, I mean polity and constitution both, right? So all the constitutional provisions, all the important political aspects of the things are important. We have to go through and we have to be very thorough with the syllabus. We have to prepare each and every topic and understand the depth required for it through the PYQ analysis, and have a keen observation. We have to be very vigilant with the current affairs, right? When it comes to polity, because GS2 itself is really current affairs oriented sort of paper. The entire syllabus of it is current affairs. If we talk about current affairs, it is one of the major constituent of current affairs. Both the polity aspect and the IR makes a huge portion of our newspaper, right? So that's why we have to be very well aware of like what sort of news is actually important for us, how to proceed or understand whatever has come in the news, and how to decode that particular thing and work upon it. Okay. So let's begin with the polity questions first. Out of those 10 questions, the first question was related with the Representation of People's Act. It is clearly mentioned in our syllabus. How many of you have seen the syllabus? Just comment in the chat box. Only Mohit has done. Nobody else. Soumya did. Ranju has. Great. Okay. So all of those who have not seen the syllabus, go and have a thorough understanding of the syllabus. It is a must. Without having a proper understanding of syllabus, the preparation you are doing will mean nothing, because you have to actually understand why you are reading a particular topic, where it is mentioned in the syllabus. That sort of understanding we must have, and after doing that, we'll be able to actually understand in a particular book. Let's say we are reading any reference book, why we are reading that particular chapter. We should have an answer to it, right? Because otherwise these books are not written for UPSC or by UPSC, right? Then covering each and every topic without understanding its importance in the syllabus will actually waste a lot of our effort, right? So Representation of People Act is one such topic which is clearly mentioned in this syllabus. So if you have prepared, or if you have been preparing each topic from the syllabus, then you must have prepared this particular topic too, right? Now this topic is really important, because you will see in like last 5 years time, around 4 questions have come from this particular topic in GS2 mains. So it is really important. Okay. So if you have analyzed the PYQs well, you must have an understanding around like this topic is important and I have to prepare it. Now, the question demanded you to discuss the corrupt practices for the purpose of the Representation of People's Act 1951, analyze whether the increase in the assets of the legislators and or their associates disproportionate to their known sources of income would constitute undue influence and consequently a corrupt practice. So This is a Supreme Court's verdict, which has come in, I think, around 2023. But this year, in like 2024, there was a news related to Manipur High Court has, you know, gave a verdict on the election of MLA who has not declared his property and assets or has given the false declaration. So around that, there was a verdict on which the Supreme Court has given a take and has said something. So it was in the news. And from there, the 2023 news became important, like what is the corrupt practice, what all included in that, and that's why it surfaced again. So if you are following the newspaper thoroughly, if you are actually going through the newspaper on daily basis, you will not miss this particular news. And that's why it became important. Now, if you could, if you have read that news, you will be able to relate it with the previous verdict of Supreme Court. And from there, you will be able to relate it with the Representation of People's Act. And if you have understanding of syllabus, then you will not miss this particular news and would have prepared with this particular dimension of the act well. So it is important to have a thorough understanding of PYQs and current affairs together, right? So in this particular topic, you have to discuss on the corrupt practices, what all are the corrupt practices according to Supreme Court verdict. You would have, given like according to recent Supreme Court verdict, so and so, or in this case, Supreme Court had said this and this. This is what you have mentioned in the answer. Then you have to analyze whether the increase in the assets of either the legislator or his or her associate disproportionate to their source of income can influence or can unduly influence the behavior of the voters. Will that be possible or not? If yes, you have to analyze around it, like what is the undue influence, what is the because the Supreme Court has said false declaration of the things is not a corrupt practice. But if someone has like more money to inject in the election or electoral process, then how through freebies and other things, how he or she can influence the voters' behavior and hamper the democratic values. So that we have to analyze here in this particular question and present our views accordingly. We have to substantiate our whatever arguments we are giving through different Supreme Court verdicts or through different data, right? So if you are prepared with this particular topic in advance, then you will be able or you will be in a position to actually work upon the data and Supreme Court judgments and all. So many of you asked me this particular question, that, ma'am, how is it possible to remember each and every Supreme Court verdict, and how is it possible to remember so many data points or examples? So this is how you do it. You actually identify the potential topics and then work upon those particular data in a more attentive manner. Okay. So understood, like what you have to do, how you need to identify the topic, and then how you need to prepare with it. Next question was, comment on the need of administrative tribunals as compared to the court system. Assess the impact of the recent tribunal reform through rationalization of tribunals made in 2021. So see, contemporary current affairs are also important. If there is any reform held in a particular, because tribunals are also important from the exams perspective. We have, though it is not clearly mentioned in the syllabus, but when we are doing the judiciary or when we are doing the dispute redressal and all those sort of topics, then there this particular, yes, it is a quasi judicial setup body. Then we prepare with this particular topic, the administrative tribunals. There are several administrative tribunals, and many of them was in news very recently too. So if these tribunals, see, tribunals are really important. Administrative tribunals appear in the PYQs very often. It is very frequently appearing topic. So one must not miss on this particular topic, right? And if it is appearing in news again and again, then again it becomes really important to understand them, to analyze them. There are some Supreme Court judgments also, some discussions around it where the Supreme Court had said, especially raised concern regarding it. So it has become important. Okay, now because we are well versed with the PYQ, then we must have prepared with this particular topic and would have performed the performed better in the exam. So you see, in the last session also we have discussed like PYQ analysis and current affairs are the key to actually perform better in the exam, and it is established here also in this particular paper. Like if you are doing the PYQ analysis correct, then you will not miss on the topics. You will have a thorough understanding. Even this particular question, where the administrative tribunals have been compared with the courts, has appeared previously also. Language was different, but almost on the same lines. So if you have a thorough understanding of PYQs, you will be doing this particular analysis too. Okay, now let's move to the next question. Compare and contrast the president's power to pardon in India and in the USA. Are there any limits to it in both the countries? What are preemptive pardons? So, if you guys have analyzed PYQs, there are certain questions on president. On like almost on every alternate year, they ask question on president's power, and this year they have asked questions regarding the pardoning power of the president. Now, because the US president's pardoning power was in news, because there was some allegation on Biden that he unfairly pardoned his own son, who was convicted in some case. So here was the discussion, or there was a detailed article on it in the Hindu. So from there the inspiration has been drawn, and even the it is like the article has been asked in this particular question only, because it was having all of this, like the comparison from of US president's powers and Indian president's powers. So if you are preparing, if you have analyzed PYQs, you will be preparing with the powers of president. Pardoning power is one really important part. Now it is asking you to compare it with the US president's powers. And whenever there is this term compare and contrast, then we see majority of people, what they do, they just highlight the differences. Like they have this power, they do not have this power. But whenever they are asking to compare and contrast, so compare includes both, like what are the similarities and what are the differences. We have to present both. Okay. Then they have asked about the preemptive pardons. So we need to know like what sort of pardons are there, preemptive power. See, these terms are there in the news. When you are reading the newspaper, make it a habit to just highlight the important key terms and prepare at least what are their meaning. At least do that. Don't just read the newspaper and miss out on these important key terms, because they become a question. It has been asked here, even in next year prelims, it can be asked in the prelims also. It previously, even this year also, there are certain questions which have been asked in prelims and they have appeared in mains too. So this happens. UPSC does that. So we have to be prepared with it. Okay. Next question. Discuss the nature of Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly after the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019. Briefly describe the powers and functions of the Assembly of the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. So we all know that very recently, I think last year only, the elections held in Jammu and Kashmir after it became the Union Territory, right? How many of you know that? Soumya does. Mohit. Okay. Good. So a few of you at least knew this particular news, that recently the election held in Jammu and Kashmir after it became or it was the first election after it became the Union Territory, right? So from this particular current affair, this question has come, like discuss the nature of Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly. What is the composition, how it is represented, based on like a representation of the people or different segments of the society. And um, briefly describe the powers and functions of assembly. So what are the, because before that it was a state. So a state has different powers, or state legislative assemblies have different powers than the union territory legislative assemblies. So we have to present here like what are the powers and functions of union territory of Jammu and Kashmir's state legislative assembly, that we have to present here. Okay, so we have to be very clear. We that and because majority of the time what happens, we prepare on state legislature, we prepare on the parliament, but we tend to skip on the union territory part of it. So we have to prepare that too. Okay, now let's move to the next question. The Attorney General of India plays a crucial role in guiding the legal framework of the union government and ensures sound governance through legal counsel. Discuss his responsibilities, rights, and limitations in this regard. There has been a question on Attorney General previously, I think in 2019 or 18 something, and it was on the same line, though the language was different, definitely, but it has asked the same sort of question. So if you have prepared or gone through the PYQs and tried to solve them, you must have written an answer to it. And the same answer would be written here. So, and even it was in news also. So both ways, you would have prepared the particular topic and would have answered it here. So till now, there was no much of the tricky questions or unexpected sort of question. All of them were either in the PYQs previously or have appeared in current affairs. And that's why these all topics were very expected. But this year, one unexpected thing happened. That was, there was no question on fundamental right. Majority of time, almost every year, UPSC asks question on fundamental rights, especially on the right to, which right it asks very often, right to privacy, right? So majority of time the question appear on in one or the other fundamental right, and but this year no question on fundamental right has come. It is quite different from its normal thing, right? Now let's move to the next question. Women's social capital complements in advancing empowerment and gender equity. Explain. So women empowerment is a theme important from the exams perspective. There have been a lot of questions, women SHGs and things in the exam previously too. So we would have prepared with this particular topic. But now here the important keyword, that is women's social capital. What is women's social capital means, or what is actually social capital? Does anyone has any idea about it? Anyone? Okay. So a social capital or a human capital is when it works as or contributes to the society and GDP of the country, right? So it is important. Now the question is women's social capital. So all the women like entrepreneurs, all the women important personalities, how they are complementing or actually contributing towards advancing the empowerment and gender equity, that we have to present here. So we have to understand this particular thing, like what is women's social capital. Without understanding, if you write this particular answer, you will be writing very generic kind of point where you will be having different sort of examples. But if you have a clarity over women's social capital term, then you will be able to identify the right kind of examples and you will be able to present them here. Then you will get a better score. Okay. Now you have to relate it with its role in advancing empowerment and ensuring gender equality, right? Now let's move to the next question that was related with e-governance. E-governance mentioned in the syllabus, e-governance is really, really, really important topic. And these days, because everything is digital, so e-governance again becomes really important. Now, the question was, e-governance projects have built-in bias towards technology and back-end integration than user-centric designs. Examine. So what the question actually demanded, see, e-governance questions have come every now and then. PYQ analysis will tell you this. So you guys will be preparing with e-governance. Now, majority of you guys prepare with e-governance in a way like, what is e-governance? What is the significance of it or importance of it? What are the challenges around? What are the initiatives government has taken? And what issues it is solving? All those kind of things we will be preparing. Even we'll be preparing with the measures and the way forward, right? But in this particular question, they are asking like, e-governance is actually have a built-in bias towards the back-end part, where it is actually serving the government and not the citizens. It does not have the citizen-centric approach. So let's take an example like how many of you have seen the website of let's say income tax department's website? Have you guys seen? No, but it is very complicated. Even any of the government websites, if you visit, it is very complicated. It is very difficult to find out a particular thing. Let's say you have to download a particular form. It becomes really challenging for you to identify like where you have to go, in which tab you will be able to find which form is related to what. All those sort of confusions are there. So it is very difficult for a layman to actually understand and do their task online, especially on the government websites. So because, and why this thing happens? Because the interface is not designed keeping in mind the lack of understanding, awareness, lack of the required literacy at the user's end. And it is actually built to facilitate or ease off the government's business. So this was the question. We have to be understanding the theme, and around that we'll be able, if once we are actually understanding the theme, then only we'll be able to identify the right sort of examples and substantiate our arguments, right? So any of the government website you visit, you will, it is difficult to find actually what you are looking for, right? So e-governance, and it's one particular challenge, because otherwise if we prepare with e-governance topic and we are preparing the challenges of e-governance, there we'll be writing it in just one point, like lack of understanding or user friendliness. That will be writing in just one point, but on that particular point the entire question has been built. So we have to be prepared with that or the right sort of arguments, right? So just having the understanding over the language, reading the question carefully, then identifying the examples, because these examples can be drawn for from our daily life. At least you guys have visited some or the other websites of the government. Let's say you have to make a complaint, so you visit the website for that. You have to do like download some form, or so, even the syllabus at different state PSC or UPSC's website becomes really challenging for many of the people. So that kind of examples you can do, right? Citizen charter, it is very difficult to find out or figure out where you will actually find it. And when you do, then how to use it, what to do about it, it becomes really tricky to people. So that is what we have to present over here in this particular question. Okay. Now let's move to the next question. That is, civil society organizations are often perceived as being anti-state actors than non-state actors. Do you agree? Justify. So what is a civil society organization? Yes, the NGOs. So many of the NGOs actually work on in identifying the loopholes in the government policies. They work upon or highlighting what are the issues in government's acts. That's why it has been perceived as being anti-state actors than the non-state actors, right? NGOs are non-state actors, but because of their nature of work, because of the kind of work they do, the kind of issues they highlight, they are perceived as being anti-state actors. So you have to present your arguments, you have to justify whatever the stand you take. So you have to analyze both yes or no's of it, and then towards the end conclude in a balanced manner. Okay. And when you are presenting the arguments, you have to give the examples and substantiate your points, right? Now let's move to the next question. India-Africa Digital Partnership is achieving mutual respect, co-development, and long-term institutional partnerships. Elaborate. It was in current affairs, there was dedicated articles on it in both, I think, the Hindu and Indian Express. Even this particular language is from the Indian Express article. So if you are reading the particular newspaper thoroughly, you will be in a, you will, it will click you very well. So in that particular article was around this topic only, the India-Africa Digital Partnership. So they have given all the important points like the current status to potential to challenges to measures to everything. So if you have prepared that particular article or read the current affairs or the news article well, I think it is on the op-ed segment. So it was very detailed article. So you would have answered this particular question well, right? But otherwise, if you haven't, then and just prepared with the IR in very generic manner like India-Africa relations, then you will have very limited arguments and you will not be able to frame this particular answer because it is 150 word, though it is just 150 word or 10 marker, but you have to give the points in the asked sphere only, right? You will not be writing everything. So the generic points will not work here. We have to be actually either we know it or we don't know it. But if we let's say we are preparing for India-Africa relation, we might have prepared a segment of it, like just a touch of it. Then it will become really difficult to present 150 words answer here, right? So we have to see important current affairs and we have to prepare with them. Now let's move to the next question. With the waning of globalization, post-Cold War world is becoming a site of sovereign nationalism. Elucidate. What is sovereign nationalism? What is sovereign nationalism? Any one of you who can tell me that? Yes. The protectionism or the nation first kind of thing, that is sovereign nationalism. So even the Vocal for Local initiative or the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative is an example of it. Even these days in the Trump's administration, America First initiative or the different countries are taking such similar measures or the steps is an example of it. So the question asks you, in the waning of globalization, like the overall impact of the globalization on the decreasing side, people are again moving towards like self-dependency की तरफ जा रहे हैं. Then in the post-Cold War world, it is becoming a site of sovereign nationalism that we had to answer here. For that, we have to present different examples. We have to work upon like why this particular phenomena is taking place and what are the challenges around it, what are the limitations around it, and how we can proceed with this, keeping in mind the current trend. Like what should be our stand now? Like what should be our international relations or geopolitical stand now based on this particular thing that we have to present here. Okay. So again, it is Very relevant, very current affairs oriented kind of topic. Okay, one second. Can we mention regional realignment like Quad BRICS? Yes, even right now, what is happening with BRICS, that they have admitted rupee as one of the mode of transactions. So that also those kind of things can be answered or used here as measures or as the futuristic steps we can take. Okay, now let's move to the next question. Constitutional morality is fulcrum which act as an essential check upon the high functionaries and citizens alike. In view of the above observation of the Supreme Court, explain the concept of constitutional morality and its application to ensure the balance between judicial independence and judicial accountability in India. So, though the language of the question is very, kind of difficult, it is very lengthy sort of question, but it is very straightforward sort of question only. If you have prepared with the constitutional morality, because this particular topic has been asked in both prelims and mains, and if you are well versed with the PYQ, you will be preparing with this particular topic. Even if you are following any institute, any reference material, any institute's notes or something, you will be preparing with constitutional morality for sure. So now this particular question is asking just what? You have to explain the concept and the application, how it is balancing between the judicial independence and judicial accountability, how it is ensuring both. That we have to answer. So this is what we are preparing in the constitutional morality particular topic. So it is nothing but just the straightforward short note sort of question on constitutional morality. Right? So having understanding of PYQ, you will not be missing out on this particular topic and would have written the answer very easily. Next question was, Indian Constitution has conferred the amending power in the ordinary legislative institutions with a few procedural hurdles. In view of this statement, examine the procedural and substantive limitations on the amending powers of the Parliament to change the Constitution. See, amending power of the Parliament has been in the news. Has been in the PYQs. Many of the questions have been asked on it. Even in prelims also there are questions on it. But majority of the time, what we do, we just focus upon like what all sort of amendments are there, through which amendment, what subject can be amended, how many amendments have been made so far, what is the procedure of it. We just focus on that. But we actually don't focus on the procedural limitations. So here the question was demanding that. So having a thorough understanding of what is the procedure in which Parliament can do what and what are the limitations to it, we have an understanding around the basic structure concept, then we'll be able to write this answer very beautifully. But if we do not have that understanding and the neck to it, then it will be difficult to answer this particular question. Okay. So whenever you are preparing a particular topic, we have to see both the aspects. We have to not only just mug up the procedure, but we have to also see what are the lacunas, what are the challenges, what are the limitation to it. Okay. Okay. Let's move to the next question. Discuss the evolution of collegium system in India. Critically examine the advantages and disadvantages of the system of appointment of the judges of Supreme Court of India and that of USA. So this year, two direct questions of comparison between India and US, right? So see, there is clear pattern over the comparison. Either it will be comparing India with US, either it will be comparing India with UK and with France. These three countries have been here and there been asked where almost you'll find questions around them in PYQs. So we have to at least prepare comparison between these three countries for sure. Okay. Now the question, PYQs again, the collegium system, the appointment of judges, NGAC, that has been asked again and again. So you'll find them in the PYQs Now it is asking you on the evolution of the collegium system, how it has evolved, when it started, like the first judge case, second judge case, all of that we have to present here. Then we have to critically examine the advantages and disadvantages of the system of appointment and present a comparison between India and the USA. Okay. So I think it is a doable question. It is not a tricky question, because at least half part of it is very direct. If you are preparing the collegiate system, you will definitely be preparing the evolution of it. You will be preparing all the judges cases here. And then, yes, the comparison part is one. We might not be knowing it. So if you will have observed this particular pattern, that they are asking for comparison between India and US again and again. So with almost each topic, you can prepare this particular thing. Like you can have a comparison between executives, you can have a comparison between the legislatures, and you can have a comparison between the judiciary. That you guys can do. Okay. Now let's move to the next question. Examining the evolving pattern of the center-state financial relations in context of planned development in India, how far have the recent reforms impacted the fiscal federalism in India? Fiscal federalism has been asked in past. And so if you are solving the PYQs, you must have prepared this particular topic too. Now it is asking not just what is fiscal federalism, but it is asking you how the planned development has ensured or impacted fiscal federalism. So what is planned development? Like we know there are some of the states who are more developed and some are developing or underdeveloped, right? So the differences in their development, the planned development, so there has been, here again and again, many of the states demand, like they give a major share to taxes. So they must be given a major chunk of the revenue too, or the allotment too, but that doesn't happen. So how it is impacting the fiscal federalism, that we have to understand and present here, right? Now let's move to the next question. What are the environmental pressure groups? Discuss their role in raising awareness, influencing policies, and advocating environmental protection in India. Now, if you have gone through the PYQs, the pressure groups are important. Different sort of pressure groups have been asked in the past too. But why this year the environmental pressure group has been asked? Because in, I think, Chennai, the environmental pressure group has worked upon or worked against the government's decision, and it has impacted the government decision of, I think, waste to energy plant or something. So that is one thing. And that's why it was in news, and a whole lot of debate around it was there, it should be done or not, because it is changing the form of the pollution from landfills to air pollution to like water pollution, and all that will be causing because of the kind of gases it release, kind of chemicals it release. That is the major concern of the regional people, and the pressure group worked for this and highlighted the issue to the government, and objected for establishing such what should I say, plants in the region. So that's why it was in news. If you have read that particular news article or followed the how environmental pressure groups are working, then you will be able to write the answer, right? So if you are preparing pressure groups, you will be preparing all sorts of pressure group. You will be preparing women, you will be preparing labor related pressure groups, you'll be preparing environmental related pressure groups. Different sort of pressure groups we'll be preparing, and we have to be prepared with the relevant arguments and the examples. Okay. Next question was, inequality in ownership pattern of resources is one of the major causes of poverty. Discuss in context of paradox of poverty. So this question demanded you to highlight inequality in ownership of resources. Like few people have hold on the major chunk of the resource. Like let's say in the land distribution. So almost like 10% of farmer holds the 80% of the land, right? But remaining 90% are marginalized or small farmers. Small. That's why they are not able to, produce or get benefits of the government initiatives and different things, right? So similarly, how this inequality in ownership of the resource is actual cause of poverty that we need to highlight, and इसको discuss करना था आपको in context of paradox of poverty. What is paradox of poverty? What is paradox of poverty? Yes, widespread poverty despite the abundance. So we have plenty of resources available, but due to concentration of these resources or in fewer hands, the poverty is there, which is called the paradox of poverty. So in this particular context, we have to answer this particular question. So if you are well versed with PYQs, there are a lot of questions on poverty, but here we have to present this particular angle of this topic. Okay, let's move to the next question. In contemporary development models, decision making and problem solving responsibilities are not located close to the source of information and execution, defeating the objectives of development. Critically evaluate. So developmental process has been in PYQs. Developmental process has been mentioned in the syllabus also, though it is a direct syllabus driven question. Now, this particular question is demanding you to critically evaluate that the current development model where the decision-making power is not in hands of the receivers or who are actually receiving the complaints. Like, let's take an example. You call to a call center for raising a complaint or issue. Then what they do? They say, sir, we have registered your complaint. We'll be forwarding it to some we will be forwarding it to the concerned department or so, and we will get it resolved. But they actually do not have the decision making power. Then and there, the solution will not be provided. It will be provided after through a complete cycle of the process or a complete process. Like so, this is what the question is. The contemporary developmental model has this particular flaw that the decision making power is not in hands of the receivers or the first receivers. Like let's say you went to a police station for making a complaint or lodging a FIR. You meet a particular SI, but the SI has no power of taking decisions on things. He will be, reporting or raising the issue in front of his senior, and then he or she will only be taking decision on how to act and what to do, and he'll be commanding his or her team, right? So this is what we have to understand in this particular question and write answer accordingly. We have to present arguments and give examples to substantiate them. Okay. Now, next question. The National Commission for Protection of Child Rights has to address the challenges faced by children in the digital era, examine the existing policies and suggest measures the Commission can initiate to tackle the issue. Yesterday also we have discussed about this is digital era, so everything related to it is important. We have to analyze topics in this particular light. So from AI to data interpretation or privacy to data localization to digital footprints, everything is important these days, right? So in this particular scene, how NCPC can address the challenges faced by, what are the challenges faced by the children in this particular era, like how digital frauds, digital, cyberbullying, all those sort of things, digital abuse is there, all those challenges which the children are facing, or so how this particular organization can work on it, what are the challenges it is facing, and what are the measures it can take to tackle such issues. Like one such issue or challenge is lack of understanding of digital system, how it runs, how it works, what are the actually different platforms, level of understanding, different backend sort of understanding is not there. It's lack of specialization, that would I would say, is one such very important challenge, and how the existing policies can deal with it, what are the challenges, lacunas are there, and how we need to, or it need to be improved, that we have to highlight here. Okay, now let's move to the next question. Energy security constitutes the dominant kingpin of India's foreign policy and is linked with India's overreaching influence in the Middle Eastern countries. How would you integrate energy security with India's foreign policy trajectories in the coming years? Yesterday also we have seen the question on solar energy, and that time also we have discussed why it was important, and how we would have identified this particular theme. Again, the same sort of question have appeared here on energy security lines. So yesterday we have talked about, like in the economic survey, there was a dedicated segment on it. Even different current issues related to, like between oil we are purchasing with Russia, and different deals we are making with the Middle Eastern countries for the oil and petroleum and different energy resources. So how we are actually, or it is playing a dominant role in India's foreign policy, and what we can see, or what trend we can observe through whatever steps we are taking this time, and whatever geopolitical developments are happening, that we have to highlight here in this particular answer. Okay. Now, last question of the paper. The reform process in the United Nations remain unresolved because of the delicate imbalance of East and West, and entanglement of the US versus Russia-Chinese alliance. Examine and critically evaluate the East-West policy confrontations in this regard. So it is very predicted, right? That there is issue between US and so it is like a East and West axis. So US has a particular stand, and Russia and China has a stand, and all these three countries play important part in UN. They have a majority say in UN, and that's why many of the reforms cannot take place, because for one, if US agrees, so Russia and China deny, and for the other, if China and Russia agrees, then US denies. So that is the kind of tussle between these two axes results into delaying of the reform process in United Nations. That we have to highlight here, and how the world has been impacted through it, and what measures should be taken to overcome this particular issue, that need to be highlighted here. Okay. So all of these questions, you will see a clear pattern, that is, these are somewhere or the other can be drawn from the PYQ analysis or through the thorough understanding of current affairs. So if you are preparing a particular topic, be thorough with your PYQ analysis and have a keen observation around the current affairs. Now start identifying the themes, identifying the importance or potential of a particular topic, and prepare those topics in the holistic manner, in the required length and breadth. Okay. So this is all for today's session. If you guys have any doubts or anything, you guys can message in the group or can message me personally. I'll be answering all of your doubts and solving them. Tomorrow we'll be having a discussion on GS3 paper, like how it was and what we could have done better, and how we should be dealing with topics for our coming year's attempt, like 26, 27, 28, whatever you are preparing for. So what should be your preparation strategy around GS3, that we'll be decoding in tomorrow's session. So till then, go back, read the question by yourself, go to the PYQ segment and analyze the PYQs by yourself and see what I was saying and how are you able to relate them and identify the micro topics or not. Okay, so all the best and see you in tomorrow's session.